All right. I don't know if Jerome's there or not, but Jerome, if there's something you need from us, let us know. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Are you folks able to share my screen? I've got 3 monitors. I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. It should be the title slide, how to respond to resistance.
Looking good.
Yes, we can see it.
All right. What's the audio like? Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Let's dive in. So my introduction, my mission in life is to disrupt the needless destruction of human potential. I cannot bear to stand, people going home after a hard days of work with no joy in their soul, nothing to give to whoever is waiting for you at home. So that drives me nuts. And in this version of my career, I'm focusing on all the BS that's perpetrated in the name of Agile transformation. And I heard on the news yesterday that BS means baloney skittles. So I'm keeping it PG-13 here. So yeah, all the baloney skittles that goes on in the name of Agile transformation, that's what I want to disrupt. And that's why I'm here, to see if I can help you if we have a shared mission. So let me tell you what's my agenda. What I want to offer you as a result of this conversation is I'd love for you to get some new perspectives, some new ways to deal with resistance. The work that we do can be thankless. We are trying to help people realize their potential, try out new ways of being, and can be challenging, and can be frustrating and demoralizing. So what I'm hoping is, as a result of my presentation, you will walk away with at least one new way of being, one new choice to respond to an agile, to respond to resistance that you might not have had before listening to my ideas. Now, let me ask you, why are you here? Your time is precious. What's your agenda? What do you want to get out of this? You can either speak up, you can type your answers in the chat window. All right, lots of answers. New learning. Learn how to deal with the resistance. Wow me. Andrea says, wow me. Now you're in Bahamas. You're probably wowed by Mother Nature. Learning new tools, understanding why people are uncomfortable, new trips and tricks. Okay, exactly what the title says. Baloney skittles. Okay. Additional ways of having conversations. Frustrated by agile baloney skittles. Okay. Mastery. Overcome resistance. All right. Thank you. Thank you for participating. All of the above. Fantastic. Okay. Cool. Thank you for sharing. So let's talk about the approach that I'm hoping to use today. Okay. So this is my hypothesis. I would like you to engage in the rest of this conversation from the perspective of a specific person from whom you are facing resistance. Okay, so whatever I'm telling you, to avoid it being theoretical baloney skittles, apply it to a specific thing you're trying to accomplish in your context and a specific person who appears to be resisting. Okay, how many of you have an example in your mind? Show of hands. Okay, Charlene's got an example. Okay, John. Okay, bunch of folks. All right, so please keep that. Thank you, Mark. Okay, thank you, everyone. Keep that in the center of your mind as you're listening. Now, let's talk about accountabilities. In this conversation, I'm going to invite you to try out a whole bunch of new ideas. Now, one of the things my coach, David Dars, told me, Ravi, an idea is like a Christmas sweater. You try it on. If it feels good, keep it on. If it doesn't feel good, put it back in the closet, or maybe give it to Goodwill. If it's in the closet, when time comes around, if you feel like trying it on again, you put it on, right? So whatever I'm telling you, it's like a Christmas sweater. It may or may not fit. But during the course of this conversation, my accountability is to give you a whole bunch of Christmas sweaters. My expectation from you is that you try them on, interact with me, talk to me. So I'm not just speaking into the ether. How do you feel about this accountability? How do you feel about this handshake? Who is willing to interact with me today? All right, Karen. Thank you, Karen. Anyone else who would be willing? Who's okay with this accountability? And I probably can't see all of the. All right, John, Rolanda, thank you. All right, cool. So this is the accountability that I will be expecting, and you can hold me accountable. All right. So what am I going to do? I will be modeling. I wish I were that handsome, but obviously I'm not. I will be modeling certain behaviors during this webinar that I would like you to consider after the webinar when you are interacting with whoever you are facing some resistance from. Okay, so that's one of the approaches, one of the steps that I will be taking in this webinar. I'm going to be asking you lots and lots of questions. Okay, many times in response to my questions, you might hear silence. And one of the things that I learned in my career is, especially as a trainer, is sometimes, or a coach, silence is my best friend. Silence is my best ally. Silence could mean that there is growth happening. People are thinking. There used to be a time when I would be so uncomfortable with silence, I would try and fill it up with something because the awkwardness was too much. Until someone told me, Ravi, extroverts think by talking, and introverts think before they talk. So when you hear silence, it may just be the sound of introverts thinking, or perhaps even if it's an extrovert, they are stumped, and that is the sign of growth. Silence could be the sound of growth. So I will be using silence in this conversation a lot. And my request is manage your tendency to fill up the silence if it's not being filled up with growth and new ideas. So be at peace with silence. One of my friends, Dr. Charles Suschek, who's a PhD, Scrum.org PhD, said, Ravi, when you ask a question in a training or a webinar, count slowly in your mind till 25. So I may or may not do that today, but I'm just giving you a warning that silence is going to be used in this webinar, and it might create some discomfort. Discomfort is good. All right. So I'll also be asking some of you to do role playing. So I will be asking you some questions. Who is willing to do some role playing today? All right, we got Maru, Jan, Kulsum. All right, we got a bunch of volunteers. Karen as well. Excellent. All right, Magda, very good. So there will be a chance along the way. Who's willing to be curious? Thank you, Kelly. Okay, Karen is willing to be curious. Magda, fantastic. Anu, great. So curiosity is going to create the space to discover new ideas. So I'm going to ask you to be curious. Who's going to be vulnerable? Yeah, and okay, Karen, very good, because it's possible that when I ask you a question, you could put forth your embellished self, your perfect self. No growth is going to happen if you do that. But if you put forth your humanity, as I will try to put forth mine, it's possible that we will discover something new in terms of dealing with resistance. Who's willing to be challenged? Because sometimes you may have a very deeply held belief, and I might ask you to challenge that belief. Yeah, I'm seeing some heads nodding. Thank you. Karen, thank you. All right. Let's start with the first challenge. Who is willing, who has not yet turned on their camera and would be willing to turn on their camera? All right, thank you. Bunch of cameras being turned on. Very good. Whether you turn on the camera or not, I have a question. This was like a micro experiment. I'm seeing a bunch of cameras turn on. What are you noticing? If you were to be curious, what are you noticing as I challenged you to do something, especially those who had their cameras off? What did you discover about being challenged to do something that maybe you are not comfortable doing?
Sometimes all you have to do is ask.
Sometimes you just ask. Yeah. What else are you noticing? People took up the challenge. Very good. What else? Discomfort. For those who did not have their camera on, and who either turned it on or who still have it on, what was your experience? It takes the first person to make a step. Okay. What else? What else did you notice? Here's one thing I noticed at the topic of change. Okay. It's from this book. It's called Introduction to Type and Change by Nancy Barger and Linda Kirby. Beautiful quote from this book. People don't resist change. People resist change imposed on them by others. When I read that quote, it blew my mind. And what it helped me do was, when I was beating up someone who is resisting change with like a piñata, right? Oh, he's a command and control person. He's a waterfall person. There he goes again. When I thought about this quote, it reminded me, maybe this person is reminding me of a part of myself that I might not like very much. This is from Carl Jung. This can make us very uncomfortable. Because now every time I'm getting triggered by someone, I'm getting frustrated by someone, I'm asking myself, wait a minute, where in my life am I being like this person? And that made me think in the context of change and resistance, I started asking myself, wait a minute, where am I resisting change? And I would love to ask you this question. Look at your personal life or your professional life. Give me an example. Give me an example of a situation in your life where you are resisting change. Who would be willing to do that? Alex, yeah. Who else? Who else has a situation in their life where they are resisting change imposed on them by someone else? Anyone else?
I do this pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I just don't like being told, in definitive terms, this is how you need to be. And I'm like, no. I don't
Yeah.
think-
And what value is being honored when you say, no, don't tell me definitively how it needs to be?
Well, to me, it's respect,
Yeah.
and openness.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing that. This can give you insight if you walk in the shoes of whichever person appears to be resisting change. This incident, this conversation that Cheryl and I just had might help you pause and disrupt your auto response towards that person. Oh, there they go again. Like me and the piñata, command and control, waterfall, traditional manager, whatever, right? Superhero. Just pause and disrupt your auto response and say, wait a minute, am I being like that? Why am I being like that? What could be happening? So if you disrupt the auto response and you switch to curiosity, maybe there is some insight waiting for you. Okay. And I did a micro experiment right now with the camera to illustrate what I meant. So I hope you will remember that. All right. So let's design our alliance, how we are going to be with each other for the rest of this conversation. Here's what I need from you, which I verbalized before. I want you to be curious. I want you to be playful, vulnerable, open, and present by being, turning your cameras on. If not, just be present. Don't be multitasking and, painting your toenails while we're talking. So this is what I need from you. What do you need from me? So you walk away with your acceptance criteria. What do you need from me? And if you are getting what you need from me, that's okay. Give me some feedback. What do you need from me? So you get value from this conversation. Tools. Okay. Lunch. Well, I'm sorry, I can't give you lunch, but you never know until you ask, right? Flexibility, concrete, practical tips. Okay. Same as you need from me. All right. New ways of approaching people, examples, engagement, interaction, insight. Okay. Examples. Very good. Cool. All right. At any point in this conversation, if you don't get what you need from me, would you be willing to stop me and ask? How many people are willing to stop me and ask? All right, I've given you permission. Very good. All right, so let's dive in. So what is my hope? What is my assumption? My assumption is if I scatter the seeds of some ideas that I am drawing upon from my lived experience, hopefully you will take one of those seeds and one of those seeds will germinate in your context, and it will give you a new way of dealing with resistance to an agile way of working. So this is my hope. This is my assumption. So let's experiment. Let's play. Let's see if it works out or not. All right. I am going to teach you a 9-step framework that I have created. This framework is based upon a coaching model that I am certified in. So I am a certified professional coactive coach. I got certified as a coach from the Coactive Training Institute. And the reason I got certified was I was calling myself an agile coach and a Scrum coach, but I felt like I was a hypocrite because I did not go to an institute recognized by the International Coaching Federation, and I did not earn the right to call myself a coach because I was just winging it. So when I realized that inauthenticity, and I discovered that I was coming across a lot of resistors in company after company, client after client, I started realizing the one constant in all of these contexts is me. Perhaps it's time for me to upgrade my skill set. And the one place where I felt I needed the greatest upgrade was in my coaching toolkit. So that's why I went to the Coactive Training Institute. I spent 2 years of my life. I did 5 classes. I did 100 hours of coaching, supervised coaching, and 6 months of certification. And now that I'm certified, I wanted to convert what I learned into operational tools that my community, that is people like you, can apply in their context. Okay. So what I'm about to share with you is like the distilled essence of what I've learned in a 2-year journey. So just a reminder, as I share these 9 steps with you, please listen from the context of a specific person, a specific resistor, although it's very dehumanizing to reduce a person to nothing more than a resistance. But remember to listen from that context. Okay. So here's my 9-step framework. My interpretation of agility is that the heart of agility is love and service for customers and users. Now, these customers and users are facing complex problems. The world is changing. We just have to look at the news. We are in the midst of one of the largest banking collapses in America, and now it's spreading across the world. This is just one example of how rapidly things can change. We are in a complex adaptive system in an unpredictable, uncontrollable world. So why the Agile Manifesto still feels relevant to me is the Agile Manifesto and principles originate from the context of love and service to customers and users who are facing unpredictable problems every single day. And the hypothesis is that we can deliver solutions that can help them navigate this uncertainty. And what I like about the Agile way, the Agile method is that if you deliver something to the market regularly and you use empiricism, evidence will help you figure out what's working and what's not working. And then you can use that evidence to learn, and then you deploy your next experiment and so on and so forth. And hopefully along the way, you can reduce the needless destruction of human potential in your customers, your users, your partners, employees, and in your communities. So that's what really resonates with me. So imagine you're facing resistance as you try to partner with someone in your context. Step number 1, articulate your agenda. What do you want for your customers and users? What's a problem that you are trying to help them solve? What's the evidence that will convince you that you are serving your customers and users? And then just ask, be curious. I asked you to turn on your camera. Just ask the other person who appears to be resisting, what's your agenda? What do you want? What do you want for our customers and users? What's the problem you're trying to help them solve? What evidence will convince you that we are in fact helping them solve that problem? Step number 2, see if you can align on the approach. whether it is using Scrum or Kanban or just the Agile manifesto and principles, articulate, this is my preferred approach to serve our customers and users. What's your approach? Where are we aligned? Where are we misaligned? Be curious. Step number 3, explain your accountability and separate your accountabilities. I love the Scrum guide because the Scrum guide very clearly articulates the 3 accountabilities. And I would say there is an implicit 4th accountability, that of the stakeholders. And it tries to bring clarity about who is accountable for what. And there is a separation of concerns, and there is an intended tension between the accountabilities, because great solutions emerge from those tensions. I would love for you to clarify the accountabilities between you and the person who appears to be resisting, such that you can both collaborate and partner and challenge each other in pursuit of the customers and users you exist to serve. Step number 4, design your alliance. Who are you going to be with each other? What are the values that you are going to honor? What are the principles? What are the non-negotiables? What is negotiable? What's up for debate? Who are you going to be, especially when there is turbulence, when the going gets tough? Because when passionate people are trying to achieve a shared goal in the midst of an uncontrollable, unpredictable world, it will get tough. You will have conflict. Conflict is good. The challenge is, how do you constructively harness that conflict in pursuit of your shared goals? Talk about it. Who are we going to be, especially when things get difficult? Step number 5, now start capturing your assumptions. What assumptions do you have about how you can partner in pursuit of the shared goal of serving customers and users? This is analogous to a product backlog item in Scrum. Every product backlog item is an unproven assumption. It is suspect until proven otherwise by the market. So capture your assumptions, make your assumptions explicit, and then start experimenting. This is like you building your PBIs inside of a sprint. Start taking action, create a short time box, test your assumptions, and then have a retrospective. Check in with each other. Hey, this is the assumption that we made. This is the experiment that we partnered to deploy to the world, to the universe. How did it turn out? What did we learn? What's the evidence telling us? And always keep the customer and user and empiricism and evidence from the market as the true litmus test for what's working and what's not. Number 8, learn. Just like in a retrospective, you look at the evidence and you learn. And then step number 9, adjust. Adjust your relationship. If needed, rinse and repeat. Check in with your agenda. What adjustments do you need to make? And you just do this loop every 30 days or less and see what happens. So this is a 9-step framework that I'm giving you. I have a question for you. Which of these steps did you notice in this meetup conversation? Which of these steps did you notice me using? I'm seeing a smile on Jan's face. Jan, I'm seeing your lips move, but you're on mute. So I don't know if you were intending to share with us.
Sure. So for me right now, what I have recognized is 1 through 6.
Say more.
So you set your agenda, right? And you got us, you let us know your approach. You had us be accountable, where, we're going to be interacting with you and doing different things. You created alliance with this is sort of what I expect. What do you need from me? And you have gone through some of the assumptions, and the action is actually just starting to go through this program together now.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Jan.
High level.
Perfect. And remember, I had promised you that I would model the behavior that I would like for you to follow. So I want to be a role model. I want to drink my own dog champagne. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So what else are you noticing? Let's reflect. Let's reflect. What are you taking away? Let's reflect on this approach. Which of these steps might be most helpful in you responding to the person who appears to be resisting to agile ways of working?
I would say getting them to agree to an action plan, right?
Mhm.
You know, all the rest of it's talk until you actually do something. It doesn't really help anything, right?
Mhm. Cool. So is that something you might be willing to try, Rose?
Oh, absolutely. I know who I'm trying it on.
Okay. What else? So Ramesh is saying number 8, learning. Thank you, Ramesh. Who else wants to give an example? Who wants to be vulnerable and share which of these steps might help you and how?
Well,
And yeah.
I think the alliance, like you said, setting the context, removing they're this way,
Yeah,
and setting that context, and then the alliance, I think, is huge.
very good.
I'd
We
say-
are,
I-
yeah.
I'd
Mark,
say
go
the
ahead.
approach and the accountability, because you have to start from the standpoint that you both are in agreement of the direction you're going to take, because otherwise, what I've found in my experience, if I can't find value for the person that I'm working with, that I need support from the very get-go, they'll nod politely all the way through until we get to action. Then they're going to do whatever it is they think is more important. So being able to get agreement on the approach, get agreement on the accountabilities, real meaningful agreement, sets the groundwork for everything, obviously, from the way you've laid this out.
Thank you, Mark. Charlene.
Yes, for me, it is all about accountability, but also listening. So I will tell you, my example is with a senior leadership person in my division, and they're not even willing to listen a lot of the time. So there's no accountability there. So that's for me the biggest pain point, if you will. The same mistakes are being repeated over and over and over. Actually, so bad so that I have transferred to another division already.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I'm sorry that you.
That's
had that.
okay, but I'm trying to help out my existing coworkers that are still in this division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlene.
Mhm.
Richa.
Yes, I really like how you are using the reflection in this meeting as well, because right after you went through your entire presentation, you're asking us to like reflect back.
Mhm. Thank you, Richa. John.
Yeah, maybe not answering what you put out there as a question, but I'm just kind of thinking to myself that you can replace this agile ways of working to anything. Yeah. So the bit in the middle, it could be whatever, it's like how to respond to resistance to something, how to respond to resistance to whatever. And taking that a bit further, then, so agile ways of working, if that's the bit in the middle, you do come with an agenda, as saying, look, we're going to now unpick why you don't want us to do a certain thing. And that, to me, is a bit of a dilemma, because the starting point is, no, we're going to use agile ways of working. So there must be something before this to kind of prove that things work better than something else. And maybe that's another discussion topic, but I'm just kind of thinking to myself that that's where I'm sitting at the moment.
Yeah. And thank you, John. That's been my journey. So one adjustment I want to offer to you, which I have made in my engagements, it was influenced by Marshall Goldsmith. So he's a management thinker and a writer. And I read his book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So I was trying agile coaching in a very large company. For confidentiality reasons, I won't tell you, but I bet everybody here has either heard of them or has used their products. And I was just hitting this ceiling. So I read his book. At the back, it has his email, and he says, yeah, you have questions, give me a call, or send me an email. So I sent him an email. I didn't expect an answer. He actually responded to me, and he spoke to me for 15 minutes. And I explained the situation to him. And he sent me some articles to read, but this is the biggest thing that he sent to me. And he said, Ravi, you can't help people who are not interested in being helped. So here I was rummaging in my toolkit or in my junk drawer. What technique can I use? But I forgot to ask the question, what's your agenda? What do you want? And if their agenda and my agenda are not compatible, I've got three choices. I can change me, I can change the people, or I can change the people. I can change me, I can change the people, or I can change the people. That's it. Everything else is futility, right? So what do I tell my clients? So I'm an agile coach. I believe in this way of working. So when someone approaches me for a consulting engagement, I explain to them, look, I care about your success. I want you to be happy and to be fulfilled. I want your customers and users to be happy. Now you are engaging me because we have a hypothesis at this point of time that agile ways of working can help you be more successful. And I'm willing to go on a test drive with you. However, at any point along the way, if we reach the conclusion that agile ways of working are not consistent or aligned or helpful for your goal, at that point, I will respectfully bow out of the engagement because I don't know any other way. And besides, this is the game. This is the only game I want to play. So at that point, if I know of a referral, I'll make a referral. Otherwise, we will bring our relationship to a logical close and I'll move on. So that is when I started doing that, it freed up so much of, or liberated me from so much anxiety and stress, because now I did not find myself trapped in a situation where I am imposing agile ways on people who don't want agile ways. So I can either change me, I can change the people, or I change the people. Most of the time, I change the people. All right. But I'm open to being influenced. If someone comes up with a better way of serving customers and users in an uncontrollable and an unpredictable world, who knows? I will, I might be a different kind of coach. All right. All right. What else? Any other question, John? Everybody, John, Richa, everyone who shared, Charlene, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Any other thoughts before I move on in terms of how will this help?
Hey, Ravi, Verma.
Yes.
Hi, Ravi. This is Chirag. I had a quick question about what you mentioned, the 3 ways, right? You said you change yourself, you change the people, and then you repeat it, change the people.
Yes.
So what does the second change the people mean?
Yeah. So who can share your thoughts? What do I mean? What's the difference between the second change the people and the third change the people?
The second one, you change their mindset. The third one, you bring in different people.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Or for me, in my case, I'm a consultant. I go find a new gig. Life is short. Life is short.
That is correct.
Or if it's happening in my company, I let people go. So if someone who's right.
That is often a very common problem. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Great question. Karen. Karen, you're on mute.
No. Hi, Ravi.
Yes.
So, I see Charlene's example as very, very important. So at what point do you say, I'm cutting this individual, right? Because, the resistance, there's something in that individual that is creating a barrier for them, fear, anxiety. So what is it that you, go through to reach either get through to them or say, nah, it's not going to happen? How do you make that deciding point?
Yeah. One thing is, it's a 2-step process. When I'm in the pre-sales conversation, I ask them a lot of these questions. And in fact, I have a survey that I ask people to fill out in the coactive training approach. That's called a discovery session. So I try to discover, are this person's life goals and life purpose and my life goals and life purpose, are they aligned? Are this person's values and my values aligned? So that's the first step. Before I enter into a relationship, I try to discover, is this a good fit? And I ask the question, if we come across a situation where we are finding it difficult to work together or to find common ground, how shall we handle it? Now, assuming that we create a design alliance in the pre-sales part, and then now we're in a coaching context, and then it's feeling like either they are not changing, I am not changing. Then I use that design alliance to say, hey, remember we spoke, we said when we hit turbulence, this is how we would be with each other. Would it be okay if we use that? So how would you like us to be? And one thing that I have realized, Karen, this is me looking in the mirror, and I will share something. I'll be vulnerable here. I might choke up, and maybe it's oversharing, but I realized something. I have spent a lot of my life, especially my professional life, in a 3-actor play called the Cartman Drama Triangle. Has anybody heard about the Cartman Drama Triangle? Okay, so it's a 3 there. Okay, John has heard about it. So there are 3 actors in this play. One is the persecutor. The second is the victim. And the third is the savior. The problem with my life is, especially in the professional context, I have been guilty of going into consulting conversations, looking for these 3 actors or these 3 roles. And typically the piñata that is always the persecutor is management or someone who is anti-agile. The victim is usually all those poor suffering souls who want to be agile, but unfortunately cannot be agile because of this persecutor. And here I come in as the knight in shining armor, as the savior. So the problem is, if I have a bias and I'm looking at situations through the lens of the Cartman Drama Triangle, I will find persecutors and victims everywhere because I have an unfulfilled need to be a savior. What is the root cause of that? Separate meetup, separate conversation. But when I realized that, I said, oh crap, maybe this is not a persecutor. Then I started being curious. So instead of going into savior mode, I went into explorer mode. I started being curious. When I became curious, I learned something. Sometimes the most powerful person in the company is the most terrified person in the company. And Karen, I think you yourself mentioned scared, right? Scared anxiety. The person who's resisting you the most, as Charlene was saying, the person who's not listening, that's the person who might be most terrified of losing control. Because when I look at myself as a parent, as a husband, just yesterday, my children were telling me, Daddy, you are not listening to us. You started raising your voice. Oh crap, yes. And when is it that I don't listen? When I'm scared of losing control. So when I'm working with a person and I feel like, oh man, I can't deal with this person, let me move on. I try to disengage the Cartman Drama Triangle, and I try to engage the curiosity triangle, and I try to be curious. When I'm curious, usually I discover some common ground, but there are times when I'm curious and I still reach the same conclusion. Sorry, this is not a compatible relationship. And in that case, it's time to bow out. But I try to be curious. That's a great question, Karen.
Well, thank you for a great response. And, you have a great advantage in, having that consulting entry. As an OCM consultant, I may not have that ability, and Charlene does not either, right? She's an employee. So, I see a lot of parallels that, both Charlene and I can do because you're in it and you haven't gotten, that agreement, right? So any tips on, what to do in that scenario? Because I always believe in the best results are from the best foundation, which you go for. But, we enter into situations, right, that it's not the best. The groundwork has not been laid, and then you're dealing with that.
Yeah. So maybe 2 thoughts, and then maybe we can have maybe a one-on-one conversation later. I realized very early on that because I have such deeply held principles and values that I cannot survive in a company where my values are violated. And my average duration in a company was 1 or 2 years. So my life coach said, Ravi, you've been working in lots of big companies and you get frustrated every 1 or 2 years. What's common? And what's common is me. So that's why I chose a path of consulting, because I'm unemployable. I cannot be an employee. I'm just not a good employee. So what you've got to look at yourself is ask yourself, what questions do I need to get answered before I get into a long-term relationship, maybe as an employee? Because if I get into a long-term relationship, my options might be limited. And one thing I'm going to challenge you is test that assumption that you don't have options. Maybe not in that company. Life is short. Go find another company. Make yourself marketable. Make yourself in demand. Life is short. It's go where you're celebrated. Don't stay where you're tolerated. All right. I know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, maybe one last comment from Charlene, and then I would like to move on.
Hey, thanks so much. I just want to mention, yes, I am an employee, and this person that is resisting change was not the leader of the division I'm in. Just recently, within the past 6 months, has been moved there. That was something that was decided by senior leadership. I had no influence over. So just to kind of frame that also, I have given multiple opportunities to have the opportunity to listen. I am an Agile coach as well as a senior Scrum Master. So I do very much employ and use this in my own work life as asking open-ended questions, giving them the opportunity, trying to understand them and listen to them as well as where they come from. But if they're not forthcoming and they're not honest with you, then that is a sign. You have to start reading the signs.
Absolutely.
So there's been ample opportunity for this person to embrace, but they actually want to change the way that we're following Scrum, and they're wanting to move us to creating project plans and just changing it all over. That is a true sign. You will see the signs and you will know it. But it's definitely, you're right. If you go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. But when I put in my notice that I was moving to the other division, he actually had a call with me and begged me to stay, begged me to give him 6 months or anything. And I had to say no. So you have to know where to set your boundaries. And you're right. It is about happiness in your life. And you do not want to dread coming to work. You want to enjoy your work and be successful and help others be successful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. I'm being cognizant of time. We just have a few minutes left, so I want to be respectful of your time. There was one question. Can we go through an example? I'm open for business. Hire me as a coach. I'm also thinking of creating a cohort where I can share the coactive coaching model as applied to Scrum. So if you're interested, contact me. I'm available to be a coach. I'm available to create a cohort where we actually use this in a real world context. So we are running out of time. So there's no time for role playing. So I'm going to skip this slide and I'm going to zoom through a couple of things. What if there is a conflict in the agenda between what you want and what your resistor wants? How do you handle that? What I would say is handle it by using your true north. What does your company want? What's your company's agenda? The question is, how do you find out your company's agenda? I'll give an example. Banking is in everybody's mind, or a lot of people's mind today. So let's imagine that we are working in a bank. Let's imagine we are working in Charles Schwab. The way to find out the company's agenda is go on the company's website. Find out what is the company's mission, what are the company's values, what is the company saying on their website as they're trying to attract customers and investors. Go to their financial report, their most recent financial report, and see what kind of metrics are being presented to investors. Go to the competitors' most recent financial reports. I've done this for real world clients. Find out what the competitors are bragging about. And then when you come back and interact with the person who appears to be resisting, find out what is the shared agenda between what you want, what they want, and what the company wants. Okay. Very often as Agilists, we get so fixated in agile dogma and in agile jargon that we forget we are here to deliver value to our stakeholders. Let's use that as the true north. And I'm sure we'll find some common ground. If we can't find common ground, time to go to a different company. Okay. So anyway, that's the kind of work I do. I'm open for business. If anything that I said resonated with me, resonated with you, go to smoothapps.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, hire me. That's the end of our conversation. Just to recap, I gave you my 9-step approach. When you have a challenge with a resistor, so-called resistor, try to find out what is the company's agenda and how can you find common ground. A lot of these techniques are based on what I learned as I became a certified coactive coach. Maybe a couple of quick answers. What are you taking away? What are you taking away? What is one action or experiment you're willing to deploy to production as a result of this conversation? Okay, heart of agility is love and service for users and customers. And there's a question about contact information. If you could please go to, smoothapps.com. Let me see. So Rose, smoothapps.com is the best way to get my contact information, or connect with me on LinkedIn. What are you taking away from this conversation? Discomfort and tension. Embrace, lean into the discomfort. Change is on the other side of discomfort. Growth is on the other side of discomfort. Okay. You need a coach in your life. You need a coach. Yes, get a coach. Understand your agenda. Find business value. Learn, use some coaching model. Don't wing it. Don't wing it like I did. All right. I want to be respectful to everybody's time. Mark, I would like to hand control back to you. Let me stop my sharing. Thank you all so much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. Mark, back to you.
Just wow, Ravi. Thank you so much for taking the time to come speak with us here. I genuinely enjoyed this. If you could keep up, Ravi, the chat was going just bananas with people interacting. And this has probably been one of our more interactive sessions, to be honest with you. So thank you to everybody who spoke up, not only turned their cameras on, but actually,
So I mentioned that I'm actually going to, I'll format the chat, but I plan to share a link to the chat, this chat, with the meeting recording. There's so many great golden nuggets there. So you've got your last few minutes here to throw one of your quotes in that you heard today that really stuck out to you. Otherwise, send it to me on LinkedIn, because I'd love to put together a whole list of little nuggets that you got out of this talk and with Ravi. So if you didn't put them in chat, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd really love to compile a bunch of these for us to take away as an artifact from this meeting of such great wisdom, Ravi. I said that there could be a niche market for you as a Scrum Master therapist.
I would love to be a Scrum Master coach.
A Scrum, yeah.
That's what I am. Thank you.
You've already been that to me, so I know you're a great coach. So anybody needs a coach, please hire Ravi. He is.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Keep calm. Scrum on.
Yes. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.